You're rocking with some of the realest coaches in the game. Coach RB and Coach CB. Area code 459.
Hey, you guys, welcome to Area Code 459 Podcast, man. It's your boy, Coach B. I'm with my co-host, Coach CB, and a special guest in the studio today. Man, we just really appreciate everything that's been going on and the vibe that we're creating with the Area Code 459. We're continuing our series. It is hard to love outside the lines. But before we get continued on with our series, we're going to have Caitlin thank a couple people for us.
We just want to go ahead and thank all of our sponsors that have been a key aspect in building our logo, building our brand, getting some merchandise available for us. And also want to thank God, family, friends, everybody that stood behind us as we've been able to get this podcasting business off the ground.
All right, man. Like I said, we got a special guest in the house. I'm going to go ahead and introduce for you guys our special guest. His name is Trent Forrest. He's a 6'4" point guard from Chipley, Florida. He's the son of Barbara Lee and Lester Forrest. He comes from a basketball family. Both of his parents played at Chipola Junior College in Marianna, Florida. He's academically sound, graduated from high school with a 4.3 GPA. He's had over 3,000 points in his high school career. He was Player of the Year, USA Today, Florida All-American, multiple state champions. And I can't use all 40 minutes of this podcast to talk about what this guy has done in college, but I'll give you a tidbit, man. He's been on all ACC teams. He was the Bob Cousy Award Watch list. He also had ACC postgraduate scholarship, COSIDA All-American. He's second team all ACC this year, all ACC defense. And he also led the Florida State Seminoles men's basketball team to a 2020 ACC regular season championship and a 2020 ACC team championship this year. We know that COVID-19 hit, but all the Florida State fans out there told me to remind them we knew that you were going to take over the ACC tournament and that you possibly were going to win a national championship as well. So I do want to say that, and I do want to put a little tidbit in this because this is just something personal for me. I actually got to coach this dude in high school in an all-star game. Man, what's up, Trent?
I'm good. I'm good. Just staying safe, staying healthy. So been pretty good lately.
Awesome.
Yeah, so today I want to remind y'all what we're talking about. It's our second episode for our mini-series, Love is Hard Outside the Lines. Today's episode is called It's a Process. And so when I think about that, in my mind, the first thing I think is the process is a system of events or actions taken to two of the action steps that Coach B and I have been talking about really we believe in is making a plan and committing to the plan. So Trent, you have been able to accomplish so much in a short time, and I want to be able to share your unique perspective with our audience. So let's get to it. And the first question I have for you today is, when were you first taught the value of commitment?
I would say at a young age. I mean, both my parents, kind of like you said, that they both were into sports and they both were, I guess, committed just in the different jobs that they had. My dad was a youth coach. My mom was a youth pastor, and she even coached a little bit during her time. So once I started to get into sports, that was kind of the first thing they taught me. If you're going to do something, make sure you go through with it. And I'm basically not going to be able to quit anything that I do. So basically, as soon as I was born and got into sports around 4 years old, if I got into it, I had to stick with it and finish it all the way through. So that was kind of my first run in with just being committed to something and making sure I'm doing what I promised to do or whatever I kind of want to do. So that was when I first got kind of accustomed to being committed to something.
Man, that is deep, especially saying at a young age, man. I know that I am a coach that could say this. You know, I've hung up my coaching clipboard, but I was a coach that was afraid of you when you were in high school. You know what I mean? I can go back and say, I saw this dude play in the 8th grade, and he came into my gym in the 8th grade and destroyed kids that were 2, 3 years older than him. And I'm like, okay, this dude is serious. Do you feel like your love and your passion for the game and your community played a role in your commitment?
Definitely. I would say probably a bigger role than most people think because, just being from Chipley, you don't get guys like myself too often. And I mean, just giving the guys that's younger than me, I feel like I owe them kind of something more than just owing it to myself. And that's kind of where that commitment in my community came from, is just because I wanted them to see that, I mean, the same thing I was doing, they can do it as well. It doesn't matter if you're from Chipley or from a small town. So that commitment, it runs deep with me, just with the community part of it, just because I know when I was growing up, I didn't have somebody like myself to look up to, because, I mean, you had Alex, but a guy that was actually playing at the highest level, accomplish his dreams, whatever it might be, get a chance to play in the NBA. That's not what I had when I was younger. So, I mean, that commitment definitely continues on. Even days when I don't want to do it, I think about the people back home, the little kids that look up to me. I mean, if I quit, they're going to think it's okay to get to college and after that quit or whatever it might be. So, I mean, it definitely motivates me more, that commitment kind of more to my community, even more than the commitment to basketball itself, I guess you could say.
Man, I would tell you, dude, like, and I hate this, sound like this dude that just like reads up on you, but I was a fan, right?
Yeah.
I remember back in 2015, 2016 season, your senior year in high school, you went in the second week of November and you busted Rutherford Rams for 52 points. Like, I was there. Like, I was in the gym and I'm like, yo, like, this dude just literally scored 52.
Yeah.
Like, and then right then and there, I was like, yo, like, that dude is doing it for somebody other than himself. Like, that, like, he's rocking that Chipley shirt and he's like, yo, like, I'm doing this for my neighborhood. Like, what did that feel like when you, like, jogged on the court and you did things like that? Like, what did that feel like?
I don't even know. I mean, it was definitely like a different feeling because, I mean, like I said, being from Chipley, you don't see too many people do that. And I mean, for the kids, they have to look up on YouTube to see kids like maybe in California somewhere that's dropping 50, like the #1 player in the nation. But I mean, for me, I mean, you don't have to do that. You can come to your home game, come watch your home team play. And I mean, I was there, and that was kind of the feel I had for it. Is just I wanted to show them, as long as you work hard, whatever it is, you can do the same thing that the people in these big cities are doing. So that's kind of what it was and how it felt for me. But I mean, just going out there, I just wanted to compete and play ball. So, I mean, just a little bit of both.
Nice.
And I know like the community means a lot to you. And I think that's very important for kids, especially younger kids that don't really have a lot, to have somebody to look up to and know that, like, that dude made it and so I can make it. It kind of gives them hope, and hope something that's very powerful. So what would you tell a young person who is battling with commitment issues? What would you tell?
She paused a little bit. It's cool. She'll come back. There it is.
Can you say the end of it? I lost the end of it a little bit.
Yeah, so the kids that have commitment issues, what is something that you would tell them?
I would just say, I mean, kind of like what I went through as a kid, just whatever you put your mind to or that you say you're going to do, just do it. No matter if you're good or bad at it. I mean, you definitely have to be able to go through with things you're going to say, but at the same time, if you don't do well at it, I mean, that gives you the motivation and kind of the direction into what you need to work on, what you need to get better at, no matter what it is. It doesn't even have to be sports, just life in general. If you fail at something, at a job or assignment, you have a commitment to do your schoolwork. So if you mess up on something, don't just give up on it. I mean, see what you did wrong, learn the mistake. So then when you see it again, you're going to kill it. So when it comes to commitment, don't always just give in to it. I mean, don't worry about, I guess, making a mistake during the commitment or whatever it is. I mean, stick through it and learn about yourself. I feel like that was one thing that helped me just at a young age was, I mean, whatever I stuck my mind to, my parents obviously made me stick through it. But at the same time, even if I might have didn't want to do it, once I went through it, even if I was bad at it or whatever, I kind of just learned about myself. And I feel like that's good for kids, I mean, coming up, because a lot of the times they don't want to mess up. They don't want to lose. They don't want to make mistakes or anything like that. So I feel like it's definitely important.
Yeah, Trent, you set the world on fire, dude. Like, literally, you were in the Tallahassee Democrat for all-decade team. I don't know if you knew that, but you were.
Yeah.
Right? You also set the world on fire, like, third all-time in steals at Florida State. You're third in games played at Florida State. You knocked off 5 ranked top 5 basketball teams in the nation. Like, you set the world on fire, dude. And what I want to know is, how does your commitment lead to success on every team you've been on? Because you've been successful on every team. And once again, I got to coach you on one game.
Yeah.
Greatest game ever. Yes, best game ever. And we won there too. Like, what could you say your commitment was for every team you were on?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, the first commitment is just for myself, just to come in and work hard. I mean, that was kind of something my parents taught me as well. You don't complain about if you're not playing, but I mean, you just kind of control what you control, and that's coming in every day, making sure I'm working out, making sure I'm getting my shots, whatever it might be. So that was kind of the first commitment for me coming into college. And I mean, even in high school or whatever it might be, is just making sure I'm putting the work in. So when the time comes, I don't put nothing up to question. And then just once I get on the court, I want to compete and I want to win. And I mean, not just for me, but for the people around me. I genuinely enjoy seeing the people around me succeed. So once I got to college, it was a little different from high school. I mean, you got to learn about your teammates, where they want the ball, learn about their life, where they grew up, just things like that. So my commitment to both my hard work, but also learning the people around me, genuinely wanting to see them win, I feel like just a combination of those things and making sure I stay at it over a period of time. And I mean, that's just what helped kind of lead to the wins in high school, college, whatever it was. But definitely, I mean, just the hard work, learning who I was working with and wanting to see them win genuinely.
Right. And I hope that A50 is listening, because like I said, you put us on the map, number one, and anybody that's putting you part of the organization, because they're not only getting an incredible athlete that's committed to the team that he's been on, but you've also been committed to being a great person. Dude, when I found out you had a 4.3 in high school, I'm like, wow, this dude's killing the game. 4.3 in high school. You were a graduate student this year, so you graduated early and stayed committed to your team. So, man, those are like awesome things to know. What do you feel like your commitment needs to do to improve your process or take your current position to the next level?
I probably would say just being more proactive. I feel like just not even with basketball, so to say, but just going into, I mean, the big boy world, I guess you can say, leaving college. So just getting things done, that's something that I'm kind of bad at. I procrastinate with things outside. If it's not really basketball, then I usually kind of wait till the last minute to do things. So I feel like just going into the next kind of step in my life, if I just kind of start on stuff early, that'll help me out big time, kind of making that jump.
Right. But don't you think that, you've already kind of been taught that lesson? So I like how you're like, okay, in order to jump into the big boy world, I need to do this and don't procrastinate. But isn't that something that Coach Ham kind of taught y'all already? Like, hey, we got to set this goal because we got to get to the end and make this happen, right? Like, take us kind of through that process of how Coach Ham sat you guys down in the summer or before season, especially this last season, and the trials and tribulations you had to deal with your commitment to get to the ultimate goal, which was an ACC championship. I mean, I know the gym was empty. I know COVID-19 was happening, but to see you host that trophy, dog, man, I took a picture of it. It was beautiful, man. So, for real, like, just kind of walk us through that. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so, I mean, at the beginning of the season this year, like over the summer, I mean, our coaches, they would tell us all the time that, I mean, we can win a national championship. And, I mean, I was kind of the oldest guy on the team, and I knew what we was losing, but I knew the guys returning that were already here. I didn't really worry too much about them. It was just the new guys that we had coming in, because we had 6 basically all freshman guys that were coming in either from high school or from junior college that never had played, and we were going to need them to kind of step up for us. So over the summer, the coaches, I mean, they would always say we can win a national title, we can win the ACC. But, I mean, it was kind of hard to see, especially over the summer, because the new guys were kind of getting acclimated to college, to school. So it was hard for them to kind of speed up to the speed of the game, I guess you could say, or just the speed of college life. Just being a student athlete is a big difference coming from high school. So, I mean, I kind of saw that, and I was like, I think we're going to be okay. I mean, with the returners and myself, I feel like we'll be all right, but kind of, I really didn't know. So I mean, Coach Ham he was always on us this. We can win a national title. He would kind of relate us to last year's team, just the things that we came up short on and the things that we were going to do different. And then just as we got closer to the season, you could kind of see spurts of where we were getting better. We get to the first game of the season, and I mean, we go out and lose. And I mean, it was just a lot of kind of different factors. It was the first ACC game right out of the gate for guys that had never played in an environment like that. We had foul trouble, so guys that kind of wouldn't have played as much, they got thrown into the game right away. So we just had kind of a lot of moving different pieces. And I mean, we ended up losing to not a good team. Then we kind of had everybody talking about us, but we still kind of knew how good we could be. So we just kind of took that lesson. And after that, we just kept going up all season. And that's kind of when you could tell the coaches were still saying what they were saying in the summer, that we could win a national title. And for us as the players, I mean, kind of like you said, just being proactive, the things that we saw over the summer that we were messing up on and things that we messed up on that first game, we talked them out. We had meetings just with the players where we were talking about different things. And that's kind of what got us through the whole season and the way that we could kind of keep playing at a high level all season.
Nice.
I've always heard the saying that you have to be committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the results. I don't know, when you first got to FSU, like FSU was just, your record was 500, you know, just lucky to be even. And then ever since you guys have been there, your record has gotten better every year. I know you lost in the first round NCAA tournament, and every year you kind of stepped up. How have you mentally stayed locked in during the tough times? You know, like, it's hard to go to the tournament and lose and then come back and lose and come back and lose again. And then how do you stay mentally locked in and year out to that commitment and to that process without letting the end result not affect you guys so much?
I would kind of say, just going back to what we talked about earlier, where you have to, I guess, learn about yourself. I feel like that's what helped us a lot. I mean, like you said, coming in before we got here, the kind of norm was, I mean, to get 500, you might make the NIT. And then when we got here, we got a taste of it my freshman year. We made it to the tournament. We lost. We saw how hard it was. And then we learned that. We saw that for the next year to come in, for us to go further than the first round, we knew kind of what we were going to have to do, I guess, so to say. So, I mean, like you said, you learn a lot about yourself when you fail. And each year we took parts of where we came up short, and we used that to get better each year. So, like you said, our first year, we get put out in the second round. We come back the next year, we make it to the Elite Eight, get to the highest basically point that the school has been in, I mean, a long time. And then
30 years. You know, I got the facts over here. 30 years. There it is.
So then we play at a very high level. And then we come back the next year. I mean, we were still playing well. We get to the end of the season. We definitely were making a run. We get to the Sweet 16, and we just kind of have some bad things happen. One of our teammates, his parents die. I mean, right there at the time of the tournament, one of our kind of key bench players, he hurts his ankle. And then, I mean, we get put out in a tough game that, I mean, if we have those two guys, we're probably in the Elite Eight once again for 2 years straight. But we learned how to deal with, okay, if one of our players go through a family issue at this point in time next year, how are we going to deal with it? So we went over stuff like that. And just the shortcomings for me, that was kind of my input to the team, is from my experiences, my first 3 years, when we get in different situations, because I have seen a lot, I played a lot of basketball games kind of through different positions, whatever it might be. So once we got to this year, I kind of just gave my experience up to the team on kind of what to expect, what we were going to have to go through. And once we get to certain spots in the season, how we handle those situations. And for me, that's kind of how you stay committed to it, is you learn from those mistakes. Kind of like I said earlier, you want to do stuff to kind of challenge you, I guess you could say, that's going to force you to fail sometimes and lose. So then that's how you kind of get better, like I said. And that's what that commitment process was for me. Just, I know if I fail here, when I get the next chance to do it, I'm prepared for it. And that's where the kind of commitment comes in at.
Yeah, and I know that commitment is hard to do if you don't have a plan. You know, I feel like Coach B and I, we're planners. We always have something next. We always are trying to work to get better at something different. How have you planned kind of for your future? You know, and I know it's uncertain right now, but how have you made a plan to allow yourself to find growth and commit to something to help you become better?
Um, Really kind of like we were talking about earlier, just seeing the end goal. I feel like that's what for me during this time, like you said, because it's uncertain, that's what's to help me kind of stay committed is, I mean, even though you don't know what's kind of next, you still gotta, I mean, like you said, plan like it was normal. So that's what it's been for me. I still have the end goal in mind. I know what I want to do, and I still think about my goals even during this time. So when that time does come, I'm not behind the ball or anything like that. So for me, it's still been sticking to making sure I'm working out, making sure I'm getting my conditioning in, eating right. Because I mean, you can do a lot of stuff during this time that can get you off of your commitment. And for me, a commitment is getting in the league, playing for a long time. So I got to make sure right now I just don't take a break from that. I still have to take care of my body, get in the gym, wherever it is, make sure I'm running. So for me, that's kind of what's keeping me on track and committed to what I want to do. Is just I still have my end goal in mind.
Right. And just to key in on that, like any young player or a young individual listening to you right now, like they should understand that, you know, at this point you've finished a great high school career, you finished at the top of the NCAA, and now you're back to that square one. Now you're back to that. I'm uncertain what's happening next. Like I know my goal is to make it in the league. I know my goal is to play for a long time. You know your goal is to help a team or be part of a team that can carry a championship banner at some point, and you know hopefully have the individual accolades to go with it. But you have to remake the plan. Like you have to reshape the plan. Like you have to commit to the plan. Like you need to make sure that you're working out and you're getting your shots up and you're eating right and you're staying committed to your process, which, like I said, man, and I was telling Coach CB this earlier, I said, look, this is going to be an explosive time with Trent because we can't take players to that level because we've never been, right? We've played college ball, but you've been to like that pinnacle of where you've had 30, 40,000 fans sitting in the stands rooting for you. You know, those people that couldn't afford to go to the game or didn't go to the game because of travel instances or whatever, they are alumni. And they told me before the show, they said, hey man, tell him that he got robbed this year. Like we are the national champs. Like you know, these are alumni that give back to your school that graduated in the 90s. You know what I mean? When you were born. So I just want to, you know, kind of iterate to our listeners, like, yo, that was a big gem that you just gave us, man. I really appreciate you giving us that gem because, like, just because you move to the next stage of life doesn't mean that you deviate from the plan or stop making plans, right? CB, you had something else for him?
Yeah, I just want to add to what you just said. I think that's very important what you're just saying to, like, especially they think y'all are the national champions, and my school actually is in the same position. Like we were in the semifinal game of our national tournament, and they sent us all home, and we have been there since Monday. So like when you plan and you have an end goal in mind, and you're committed to the process for 4 years, 5 years, and then you turn around and have some uncontrollable event happen in life and it just takes away your end goal. And especially as an athlete, it's so hard to like learn how to cope and then you're sitting there and like, what's next? And I think that's the beauty of sports. It teaches you how to stay committed to yourself, you know, and to the process of just continuing to grow and be 1% better every day, continuing to find something to push you outside of your comfort zone. And then that focus will allow you to try and find a new plan and a new purpose and a new action that you can take to continue to stay committed, you know. And I think that's very important. And but I honestly don't have any more questions for you. I really appreciate everything that you've brought to this podcast today.
Absolutely, man. That's tough. Well, Trent, we at the end of our podcast, we like to call a huddle. You know, at the end of every practice, you know, you get to talk to your coaches, and your coaches get to, you know, reflect on what happened that day, things that you can get better, and also give a little bit of life. So we huddle up at the end, and we do what we call our call to action. We're gonna let CB start off with the call to action, and it's just an action plan for our listeners to take back and little gems that maybe we want them to have. And then when she gets done, I'd love you to leave our listeners with the call to action as well. CB, go ahead, take it away.
First thing I want you guys to do is, I know it might be hard, but create a 5-year plan. And then On top of your 5-year plan, create a 1-year plan. And then on top of your 1-year plan, create little goals along the way to help you reach them. So once you've created those 2 plans and then a couple goals, see how you can stay committed to that process every day. And then as you go along, you can check off each goal that you've achieved and see where you are at the end of the year and then at the end of that 5 years.
Good, good. Trent, you have anything?
I would kind of just tag along kind of off of her. Just during this time right now, I mean, you can't do too much. So, I mean, by the end of it or by the end of the year, I mean, I would just kind of challenge you guys to do something that you're not good at. Go pick up a hobby or something that you're not good at, and kind of like she said, stay committed to it and just see where you end up at the end of this year or even just a year from now, kind of whatever, kind of going into that goal that she was talking about, if it's 5 years, a year, 6 months. So I would challenge you just to do something that you haven't really been good at, or just pick up something new and see how long you can stay committed to it.
That's awesome. Well, look, we all have some challenges for our listeners today. I have a call to action, and my challenge is I want you to look at your life, and I want you to make a list of 1 to 5 things that you're committed to. I want you to place a realistic amount of time that you spend on each of those actions right next to the commitment. And lastly, I want you to rearrange the order of importance. All right, excuse me. I want you to rearrange the order of importance to you to make a decision if you should shift the focus around. So really take an opportunity to just write things down, put a time slot next to it, and refocus energy if you have to. Man, we're going to end this episode with our mottos. We're going to let Trent take it away first. Is there anything you want the listeners to have, just a motto, something that you tell yourself as you go through your process?
I mean, I really don't have nothing, but just continue to work hard. Keep that, like I said earlier, keep that end goal in mind. And I mean, long as you put in the work, and I mean, go like she said earlier, put in 1% every day. Just continue to get better and keep that end goal in mind and know what you're doing it for.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Caitlin, your motto?
My motto is 1% better every day.
That's right. Well, she got last episode, so I get this episode. Coach B always tell you, area code 459, where love is the frequency. Coach B loves you guys. We'll talk to you later. Peace.